Hello again. UDM leader Bantu Holomisa has asked the National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula to convene an urgent meeting of the leaders of political parties represented in Parliament. The request follows allegations in the Sunday papers that the South African Police Commissioner General Fannie Masemola authorized the use of police resources and spent thousands of rands to find the suspects who are alleged to have been linked to a robbery at President Cyril Ramaphosa's farm in Limpopo in 2020. Let's speak to Bantu Holomisa now about this request. You've written, sir, a very good afternoon, to the Speaker of the National Assembly on the back of those reports carried by the City Press, in fact, on Sunday. Any response yet?
Yes, the Office of the Speaker has just acknowledged receipt, but we will wait to hear from her.
Mm-hmm. And what you are calling for then, after these allegations printed yesterday that the National Commissioner at the time, who wasn't National Commissioner at the time, was involved in the use, for example, of police resources being used to track the communications of the domestic worker involved in this robbery. What do you want the leaders of different political parties to deal with should a request for this meeting be granted?
I think, first of all, you must understand the gist of the motivation for me to write this letter. I want us to get a full briefing from the head of the Deputy President, who is head of business in Parliament, and that we request that he should be accompanied by head of state security agents, so that we clear some of the issues which are reported in the media without interfering with the current investigation. But when played in demand is said to publicly that Fraser had used his privilege of being a head of intelligence, and they use that information. Obviously, he's telling us that they've declassified or classified all what happened in Phala as a secret. So, as leaders, we have a right to request to be briefed, and we are not calling for a debate, but also, given that this report or this incident has never been registered or a docket was opened in a police station. So the Minister of Police and possibly the Commissioner, who is an accounting officer by now is responsible to brief us, rather the current Commissioner of Police. We need to interrogate the government as to who authorized the commissioner when he was in charge of that unit to do this. He would have not spent so much money without Treasury Authority or even without the Commissioner of Police then and the Minister. So we need some answers.
And how much of a shadow do you think in the interim this casts then on Commissioner Fannie Masemola, who's still relatively new in post? I mean, according to Sunday reports, the police commissioner at the time, was not even aware, allegedly, of much of what had been going on, if at all.
Now, those are the heavy questions which must be answered. The possibility is that the politicians gave a directive to a junior, but the head of government, which is a deputy president, I'm sure he will be in a position to bring more information to the meeting proposing with the speaker. So they've seen the letter, so they must start working.
Mm-hmm. So requests by the opposition for a debate on the Phala farm robbery issue, or indeed for the president to come forward and face questions or take questions from MPs, has so far come to naught. Do you think that this route, a briefing with the leaders of the political parties represented in Parliament, is likely to bear more fruit?
I'm hopeful that since the request is for a briefing to the leaders of the party, we should be afforded that opportunity. In other words, since we elected the president, Cyril Ramaphosa, in this case, and if there is something fishy around him, we request that we be briefed so that we know that our president is above board.
Mm. And according to that report in the city press, one thing that's also said is that a source that spoke to the newspaper alleges that the report that looked into the conduct of the now National Commissioner was shelved, so no action was taken post that report being put together after the fact. How damning would that be if true for the president?
Well, I don't want to speculate. My focus now is on requesting the Madam Speaker to invite leaders of political parties, all political parties represented in Parliament, and that the head of state security and the head of government, head of business, that is the deputy president, should come and brief us. Maybe the leaders might suggest some of the how to handle this sensitive issue, because already there are people who have been at Lutuli House over the last week, senior members of the ANC calling for this president to leave, and we want to make sure that we don't get into the same mayhem we witnessed in July last year. Mm-hmm. There have been lots of people who are threatening to do shutdown campaigns, mass elections. So as leaders, we have a right to ask some pertinent questions surrounding the security of South Africa. And just on you saying you're also now going to perhaps canvass and get the views of other leaders of political parties, in its reaction last night, the EFF called for the immediate resignation of the police commissioner, Fannie Masemola. Would you back that? Yeah, obviously, Mr. Masemola is compromised, and the whole investigation, if it is true that he hired a helicopter and used state monies without the authority, then the current investigation is compromised. Mm-hmm. So there will be no legitimacy on those who are investigating this scandal, given that these people have been appointed by the same commissioner to investigate this matter. So we want more clarity. But if he doesn't, the government doesn't want to respond, the campaign must go on. Masemola must leave with immediate effect.
And on the issue of presidents, you say in your letter to the Speaker, well, you make reference to the fact that the last two ANC presidents have in fact not served full terms. The former President Jacob Zuma left post the 2017 conference, basically fired by his own party, as had happened to his predecessor Thabo Mbeki as well post the Polokwane conference. The party is going again into a conference now. Do you think that perhaps, should the parliamentary process not work, the December conference is what will decide whether President Cyril Ramaphosa stays or goes?
Well, that's an internal matter of the African National Congress, but at least they must have a courtesy of informing Parliament, because we also elect this president. For them to go to their homes in the middle of the night and say, sign here, resign, I don't think it's in line with the Constitution. Yet, when we fight votes here in Parliament or ask for vote of no confidence against these presidents, the Speaker is shielding them. So we just remind that this is a constitutional republic. And if you look and follow all these decisions of theirs, those decisions have led to the instability and mayhem we witnessed in this country. We don't want a repetition of that.
And just on those decisions, I brought that line up from your statement precisely because when both former Presidents Mbeki and Zuma were fired by the ANC, in essence, that was post-conference outcomes and not necessarily to do with their failings as the leaders of the country. And it comes to the point that you were just making now, isn't it, about how the leaders of the ANC, whether the party feels this is true or not, are shielded, though, in the House.
Yes, that's true. But unfortunately, most of those decisions which were taken have led to the instability of South Africa. Remember when Mbeki also was withdrawn from Parliament without informing Parliament, then there were fractions within that organization to such an extent others left. In the case of President Zuma, we also witnessed some people calling them that they are RET representatives and so on. And those people who call themselves that faction are the ones who were vocal during the time of Mr. Zuma's sentencing. So, which led to the mayhem we witnessed in KwaZulu-Natal and Johannesburg. So it's time that this time around, the leaders of other parties in Parliament must engage the leaders of the ANC to say, do your own things, but do it properly. If on our side we want to discuss this matter in Parliament or register a vote of no confidence, let the current speaker not start lecturing us.
Okay.
We have a right to ask for the investigations to take place.
General Bantu Holomisa, leader of the UDM, good to have your time, so thank you.